My name is David Trimble. I'm the Vice President of Public Policy and Education at the Religious Freedom Institute in Washington, D.C. And this morning we're here at the International Religious Freedom Summit, a global gathering of religious freedom from around the world to really focus on conversations about the critical role that religion and religious freedom plays in society, not just here in America, but around the world. And we have as our guest this morning Rehman Chishti. Rehman, welcome.
Pleasure. Thank you. Good to join David.
Great to have you. Rehman is a member of Parliament in the UK and former Special Envoy for Religious Freedom. So in many ways you've been at the point of the spear in the UK addressing the need really globally to address religious freedom crises around the world. And that's what we're here at today. Tell us a little bit first, Rehman, just about your work as former Special Envoy.
Well, then, David, firstly, can I just say a big thank you to people like yourself, all the volunteers, all the NGOs like RFI, who champion day in, day out the vital importance of religious liberty. You know, governments can do a certain amount, which we'll touch on some of the work which I did as the British envoy.
Sure.
But it's about the NGOs, whether it's with the Open Doors, whether it's RFI, and all the other key organizations which provide data, which looking at issues on the front line, you know, so that policymakers like myself or those in the executive can best make the decisions to ensure that everyone around the world is able to practice their faith or belief or no belief freely and openly. And for me, as the Prime Minister's former envoy, it was championing that religious liberty aspect of foreign policy for the United Kingdom as a key priority. And that was linked to taking forward the Bishop Turo's review into persecution of Christians and also people of all faiths or beliefs around the world. And that identified this, but 80% of the world's population has one faith or another. And then also if you look at the Pew report, you look at the level of persecution, and that is exceptionally high. So therefore, as a member of the executive, as the envoy, as a parliamentarian, it's how do we work with stakeholders around the world to get the data to be able to ensure that our diplomats get the right religious literacy training, to work with another key stakeholder, our military chaplains. I know the work that the RFI do on that program of military chaplains, and making sure we have landscaping documents and reports from the front line so that we can then best address those challenges, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's in India, whether it's in Pakistan, whether it's with blasphemy, whether it's conversion issues. There are so many different challenges that we have to, as policymakers, work with counterparts around the world. And for me, it was a real privilege to work with Sam Brownback, the US ambassador, to ensure that we were able to bring about tangible change and move the dial in people being able to practice their faith or belief openly and freely.
Rehman, you mentioned former ambassador, International Religious Freedom Ambassador at Large, Sam Brownback, and you know he was the one that launched this gathering, this international gathering first as the International Religious Freedom Summit. I mean, International Religious Freedom Ministerial. And it was through that effort with a global gathering of religious leaders, both government and non-government, in the private sector, coming together, that things really seemed to take a step forward. The global interest, the global focus on religious freedom really took an exponential step forward. And it also led to a closer working together of the U.S. and the UK. From my observation, which has been a wonderful kind of partnership and continues to be.
Well, too, I think, David, you're absolutely spot on. I think in that period, when I was working with Sam in 2019, 2020, along with his special advisor, Knox Thames, the concept was thought of creating an international alliance of like-minded countries to advance international religious freedom. And it was then a vision, and then in a very short space of time, you know, Sam Brambach, working with the United Kingdom and the European counterparts, helped set up the International Alliance here in Washington, with addressed by Secretary of State Pompeo.
Yes,
but it was Sam Brambach who came up with the idea, along with Knox Thames, to have like-minded countries. And at that time, we had 25 like-minded countries.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, David? What then led from that to tangible difference being made was that at the end, when I was leaving office, and Sam was shortly leaving office after that, was we saw prisoners of conscience in Yemen, were released.
Sure.
Members of the Baha'i community, through the work that the International Alliance was doing, to getting individual prisoners of conscience released in Uzbekistan. So the International Alliance made a real difference and continues to make that difference. And what's important with the work of the Alliance is then linked to that is these summits, because these then continue to highlight the issue of international religious freedom, bringing policymakers, NGOs, stakeholders, and victims to come together to say, how can we work together to continue to ensure people can practice their faith or belief every day, because the issue continues day by day, sadly, to be on the increase.
It does. It does. Ray, one benefit from kind of our transatlantic partnership is that we've been able to elevate the focus of the importance of religion and religious freedom for emerging young leaders. And you've really been part of that. At our invitation, you've graciously participated in seminars. And of course, last year, the RFI, working in coordination with the British office on international religious freedom, we had our first international religious freedom transatlantic seminar for graduate students and undergraduate students, and out in Windsor, as you know, at Cumberland Lodge. And you were gracious enough to come all the way out there and be one of the speakers, and the students, I think, were mesmerized with your work and just really took it on board. But I was so encouraged by that, where we were able to live together for 4 days out there and really focus. I mean, these were students, half from the UK, half from the US, getting together, and there was an immediate camaraderie, an immediate collegiality, and coming together about the importance of this issue. And around that table of 14 or 16 students, PhDs, law students, graduate level, and a few undergraduate, there were Muslims at the table, there were devout Catholics, there were Protestants, there were people from all different faith traditions, the Anglican tradition, and you were one of the speakers, and as was your successor, of course. Fiona Bruce was there, and we were so glad to have her there to open it. But I raise all that and kind of paint that picture and drive our thoughts back there, because one thing we're very focused on, and this year the summit here is focused on, is now focusing on young leaders. The role that they have now in exercising some influence on religious freedom, but also the importance of training, really digging into the issue, studying and training. I'd like you to comment a little bit about that. I think we've been kind of slow, where there's so much to do, of how do we get young people involved in this issue?
Well, I think, David, you've hit the nail on the head. It's with regards to making sure that our younger generation, our future, are able to have that thought process with regards to what religious coexistence means.
Yes,
what is it that unites us all? The values of that we share in common, which are across all different faiths.
That's right.
And therefore, then if the younger generation are looking at, and it's important to them, the issue of environment. And then how does the issue of environment touch on the issue of individual responsibility to the environment through faith?
Exactly.
If you then look at the charter that was put together by Pope Francis, along with all the other faith leaders in the Vatican ahead of COP26, that clearly showed the faith dimension to an individual responsibility to faith through climate being a key issue. So I think the work that RFI does, with regards to the Young Leaders Program, the work that was done at Cumberland Lodge, it's sometimes said, one should not talk about, religion or politics over the lunch table or a dinner table.
Exactly.
But I think, but how can you not? All that we do in life, it's touched upon.
Yes.
With regards to politics, when I speak to my constituents back at home and the younger generation, whatever you do in life, whether it's paying your taxes, is determined by government. With regards to the education and the curriculum, the government has a say.
Yes.
And therefore, if you're then talking about individual freedom and liberty, when the world is diverse of individuals of all faith, and if you want to make the world a better place for all, then you need to be able to understand each another's faith.
That's right.
And therefore, having them together, and also in looking at how do we equip our younger generation to better understand those challenges, on how we can work together. I think through bettering, diplomacy and engagement through the work that you do on the Young Leaders Program. I think it's absolutely important. And certainly in today's world, which is being polarized, we then need to look at how do we bring people together through working together for the common good.
For the common good, that's right. Yeah. And you touched on one point. We'll kind of close on this. Just, you were talking about the relationship of faith to protecting the climate.
Yeah.
And, I think there's a misunderstanding or an oversight today of how our faith and religious freedom contributes to so many social goods.
It does.
Economic stability and even health care and equality in the workplace for men and women. And all of these things benefit when religion is moved from the margins of society back into the middle, back into those conversations at the dinner table as you're talking about, and in the public square.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for your work in helping that happen around the world, Rehman, and for your friendship. Thank you.
Dave, thank you.
Appreciate these few minutes we had together today.
I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate all that you and the team at RFI do. I know you've gone through a transition with Tom having done a fantastic job as a president and now being the Emeritus president, and Eric coming in as the new president. You have a terrific team there, with the skills and what I really appreciate with all that you do is the forensic research, the landscaping documents, identifying not only challenges, but how do we then address those challenges, working with policymakers, NGOs, stakeholders to bring about a policy change which would ensure that we all can enjoy our freedom of religion or belief. So thank you to you and the whole team at RFI in all that you do in advancing this key issue.
Thank you, Rehman.
Pleasure.